So, as you know, Saturday is the 4th of July. Fireworks at night, people having parties, everything. So, there is a chance for severe weather over the weekend, the 4th of July weekend. So, we're going to go into that right now. So, today's outlook is an enhanced risk level 3 out of 5, where tornadoes, hail, and wind will all be a threat. So the reason I'm talking about today is because people could be traveling to their 4th of July parties and their fireworks shows, because some people might want to travel early and go to the airports to make it places. So just be aware if you are in the South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa region, or anywhere in the yellow or even the dark green for those chances at thunderstorms and possibly even tornadoes. So we have a 2% tornado from Montana to Wisconsin. This does not mean we will not see tornadoes. There's already been tornadoes reported today in, I believe, South Dakota. So be aware, take all warnings seriously. If it says tornado possible and thunderstorms, please go inside, as that means there could be a tornado that will form. Doesn't mean there will, but there could be. And if you get a tornado warning, please take that extremely serious, as you never know what could happen. So there is a hail risk with this, a 15% Sig 1 hail risk. So intensity is 1. So this risk will be from northern North Dakota to northern Nebraska. There's also a sneaky 5% risk in Tennessee. Don't be surprised to see some hail if you're in Tennessee, maybe outside on your doorstep. Who knows where it will be? Could be in your backyard, could be in your front yard, could be all over. I don't know, but the hail will be there. The wind risk is the highest today, with that 15% in Kansas and a 30% Sig 1, where that enhanced risk is in South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa. So there could be some thunderstorms that have 80-mile-per-hour winds in that zone. I believe there's already have been some. And we also got a little sneaky 30% risk in Tennessee. There could be some 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, maybe some 80s, as it's not SIG'd. So it doesn't really have an intensity level on it, but it's still there. So if you are in Tennessee, just like I said for the hail, you could see some 70-mile-per-hour winds, 75-mile-per-hour winds. So take everything seriously today. So right here is the current 18Z HR, where it shows, as you see right here, there is some tornado warnings near Huron, South Dakota. So here is what the HR shows. It shows storms firing in South Dakota. There is also some storms over there in Wisconsin, Iowa. Then it shows it moving into Minnesota, and then it just becomes sort of a line going through Iowa and Minnesota around 5 a.m. tomorrow. I also said we had a little threat in Kansas. Let's see how that unfolds. Shows a little supercell right where that thunderstorm is, actually, and it is 5 p.m., so great job to the HR for predicting that. But it shows storms firing 7 p.m. There's some storms near Garden City, Colby, Kansas. It will continue to fire by 10 p.m. There could be some storms near Garden City. This is something that we need to watch, but I wouldn't say it's that big of a deal. That's just probably hail going through Garden City. This little dark thing right here, I believe that's hail. So if you're in Garden City, I would not be too concerned, but I would be weather aware for the rest of today. Then it shows it by 2 a.m. storms make it up to Colby, Oakley, Waukene, Kansas. And then it ultimately by 5 a.m. the storm really dissipates. I also talked about our friends up in Tennessee there is currently a thunderstorm watch and a bunch of thunderstorm warnings near Nashville. Let's see what the HR predicts for this. Storms up in Nashville like it is right now. And so great job again, HR, for predicting the storms will be right there. So then the storms basically stay in Tennessee, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Storms really fizzle out. And then 5 a.m., it's just like the storms ain't there no more. It's gone. So I'd say the threat is probably right now to maybe 10 a.m., 11 a.m. at the most. Wind and hail are the main threats. So be weather aware. Now we are going to get a bit closer to the 4th of July, where we start the weekend off on Friday, tomorrow's Day 2 outlook. Tomorrow has a more of a enhanced risk for the Omaha area. It goes through Nebraska and Iowa. A big slight risk from South Dakota all the way over to Connecticut. So that's something that needs to be watched. So tomorrow, be weather aware for that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they end up moving the slight risk down into like the Cincinnati, West Virginia area. Maybe taking Indianapolis with them too. Who knows what will happen, but that's something we need to keep an eye on. Tornado risk once again, just like today. It is low, but that does not mean we cannot have a tornado. That means the tornado threat is just low. We have a 2% risk from South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. Omaha area is included in this, so if you are in the tornado risk, which will likely shift, or it could stay the same, but I expect it to shift, maybe some south, including maybe the rest of Nebraska, going into the northern part of Kansas maybe. But just be weather aware. There could be some tornado warnings out there, maybe even some tornadoes in Nebraska. On to the hail threat. Once again, I think this might shift into the Ohio Valley area. But for now, the biggest hail threat is a 50% Sig 1 for South Dakota, Nebraska, and part of Iowa. So there could be some hail. There's also a little 5% that dips down into the Texas Panhandle. So don't be surprised if you see some hail down there. So there is a 30% Sig 1 for wind for tomorrow's outlook. And also the wind makes up the whole entire slight risk. So if you're over in like Pennsylvania or New York, for example, don't be surprised to see maybe some downpours with some gusty wind, with lightning as well. But the main wind threat will be in Nebraska, South Dakota, and Iowa, Omaha area, where there's a 30% Sig 1. That means, just like the last outlook today, 80-mile-per-hour winds will be possible tomorrow in the Omaha and Nebraska area. So be aware. After 5 a.m., we're going to see what happens in the Omaha area. So storms start firing early morning. This is likely morning convection. That will die off. And then by 6 p.m., you see another supercell and some storms over here that will pop up. And there will also be some storms happening over in the Des Moines area, Iowa. But as you see, this grows into a big storm system before 1 a.m., a big line pushing into Omaha. And then 5 a.m., the line's over here, Missouri, Iowa. That could be a risk for some severe winds and some hail. I also want to take a look at our Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, that little slight risk area, as there could also be some severe weather there. So by 2 p.m., we start to see some storms forming, particularly near Scranton and over here, Jackson. A downpour likely right here. And then we also have some storms over here near Bloomington that's going to start firing up. along with this big line that's going to be moving through the Chicago area, South Bend, Champaign, Grand Rapids, that area. So as we push through 7 p.m., 8 p.m., as you see, storms start firing up. Wilmington, Hillsboro, some over here by Pittsburgh, south of Erie. It's just going to start firing storms. So then, as you see, we have a big system over here in Pennsylvania, State College, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton. And then it will eventually push off to cause some heavy winds in Pittsburgh and Columbus. And then by 5 a.m., there's also, it pushes into Pittsburgh, so maybe 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., depends on what time this happens. Pittsburgh could be in for a downpour with some gusty winds. And then 5 a.m., the system's just pushing into Pennsylvania. Buffalo up here. Wouldn't be surprised if you get some hail and maybe some gusty winds here in the morning. We also have a day 3 slight for parts of Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, and then there's also a big slight risk area for the 4th of July over here in New Jersey, Virginia, Ohio, that area. So this is the 4th of July, so this might affect fireworks depending on what time the storms happen. So if you're watching fireworks, let's say in like Pennsylvania or Maryland, I would really watch to see if this severe system is going to be happening during the fireworks show. We are first going to be looking at this slight risk over in the Colorado area. We are now on the RRFS. That model, as the HR has still not reached late Saturday, so the late 4th of July when fireworks are happening. In the RRFS 18Z, it's still updating at the time I'm making this video, so we're going to be using the 12Z. So it shows storms firing up 9 a.m. So HR has not made it to late Saturday yet, so we're going to be using the RRFS. So let's go ahead and see if it shows any storms for the Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas area for late 4th of July when fireworks are happening. So around 6 a.m., 8 a.m., it shows this line of storms moving through Kearney, McCook, Colby. It's going to die off, but it will still weaken the environment over here, which is going to be good for later. But I believe the instability will be gained back later in the day, in the heating hours. So, shows that pushing out. And then we have some storms happening up here in Cheyenne, Denver. That will eventually push out by 11 p.m. Fireworks should be already done. Over here by El Dorado, Salian. Could be some storms over there. But then it pushes in 2 a.m. So for the enhanced risk over here, actually no, it's a slight risk. For the slight risk over here, it doesn't look like there's going to be much happening in the Denver and Nebraska areas. It looks like morning convection, in fact, did weaken the system. So we're going to be moving on to the Ohio Valley, Virginia area where I'm most concerned for fireworks to be ruined. So 6 a.m., 7 a.m., we have, I don't know what that is, but we just have clear skies. And then 5 p.m., we had some storms back here, St. Louis, Springfield, up here in Dayton, Richmond area, Cincinnati, Columbus. It's just like spam storms. I've watched this over and over again. This model just spams storms constantly. So then it shows storms will push over here, Ohio, Indianapolis, 7 p.m. Fireworks are going to be getting ready. And then 10 p.m., I think if you're in maybe the southern Ohio area, fireworks should be good. I don't know about the Indianapolis, Bloomington area, Pittsburgh, I don't know. But then down here in Virginia, I think 10 p.m., if you're in Virginia, you're going to have a good time. I don't think there's going to be any rain. Well, there'll probably be pop-up showers, but I don't think there's going to be any thunderstorms at the time of fireworks. In Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New Jersey, that's the areas where severe thunderstorms and downpours can be interrupting fireworks shows. So it shows storms pushing into the New York area probably around 1 a.m. and then it just dies out 5 a.m. And it's good. But if you are going to go out in this area for fireworks shows or just a 4th of July party, make sure you have an umbrella handy, as it could rain, could not, but it's more than likely going to rain sometime in the day, so an umbrella will be handy. We also have a day 4, 15% chance for thunderstorms. This is a slight risk on day 4. Washington, you're included, Delaware, Virginia, Maryland, so the Baltimore area, you guys are included in this slight risk for day 4. This is Sunday, so after 4th of July, but it's still part of the weekend, so I do want to talk about this. So the RRFS does not go all the way through Monday. It goes to 8 p.m., but let's see. So it shows clear, and then we have some storms forming in North Carolina, Virginia, around 3 p.m. That will push, and that will end up turning into a line near Richmond, Virginia, going towards Virginia Beach. I would not be too surprised to see this be a wind threat. Maybe 30% wind chances. I would not be surprised to see that. So we'll just see what happens, and I'll probably make a separate video later on. Maybe tomorrow I'll make a short talking about this in more detail. But let's go on and get to the heat. Man, has that heat been brutal for the people in the Ohio Valley, and especially over here in North Carolina, South Carolina, where Charlotte at this time, 103 degrees. That is extremely warm. But let's see. There is going to be a relief from this once rain comes through. As you see, tomorrow, 3 p.m., once again, we have 107 in Richmond, Virginia. That's hot. But then we get into the 70s by Saturday morning. The heat will push back in, though. But here in Ohio, it's going to be a bit cooler, but not as cool. Over here in Washington, Richmond, Charlotte, you still won't see a relief on Saturday. It will be a hot 4th of July. And then we have a really relief at 9 a.m. for Ohio, Pennsylvania. It's still going to be warm down here in South Carolina, North Carolina. But that looks to change. Sunday, it's going to be really hot again in North Carolina. Ohio starts to cool off. Indiana cools off some. Kentucky's still a bit warm. But then Monday, it's still pretty warm in North Carolina. But I expect this trend to end for the Ohio area. It's going to start getting cooler outside here very soon. Not too cool, but not too warm. I would say 80 degrees for the people in Ohio and Pennsylvania, Indiana, maybe even Kentucky. But after these storms come through, relief from the heat will be likely. So that is all I have for today. I will make a short, like I said, tomorrow, going over more detail about that Sunday risk. But for now, be weather aware today, tomorrow, and Saturday. And have a good 4th of July. Bring an umbrella if it's raining. If it's cold outside, bring a jacket. But just be weather aware on the 4th of July and basically every single day. I will see you next time. Goodbye.